This is part 2 of learning Godot by making a 2D game course, where we will build a vampire survival game clone. Let me know in the comments if I forget to explain any topics I used in this part. Let's create our base unit scene. Under the scenes folder, create gameplay folder, entities, units, base, and here we create new scene, call it base unit. You cannot pick here which node to be the root, because you will be able to change it after you create the scene. Here you can just press right click and change type and pick any other node type. So as we already planned, our base unit should have HP, life, movement. Those three are our components. And sprite, area, and collision shape, those are the Godot nodes. Okay, so you can press here on the plus icon or simply use Ctrl A and type HP, here it is, component. Next, again, movement component and life component. Don't be afraid of large names. It's clean, it's understandable, easy to read and find them. And sprite 2D, area 2D, and as a child area, collision shape 2D, like this. We have this warning, it's okay, it tells us that it's need to set a shape. We won't do that here because each unit type could have its own shape type. Okay, and our base unit scene is ready. Now let's add a logic to it. Press on your root node and press attach a script. You cannot rename it, so leave it as base unit. And here first we add class name to have typing for our units. It's gonna be base unit scene. Why do I use scene in the class name? Shorter names are cool, but very soon you will enter to a problem that many names of your logic blocks, of your components, scenes, they're so mixed up you can't understand clearly what is a node, what is a scene, what is just some script module. So you will need to constantly run across your project and rename it. This thing is make it clear. This class, this script, this is attached to a scene, to root node, and I easily can understand it. So when I pass this entity as a parameter to any signal, to any function, I clearly understand what the hell is this. So next, we need to have references to our components to be able to manipulate them in future. So we need reference to our components, hold Control key, hold mouse button and drag it to a script like this, and you will get already variable with type and reference to the node. So and do the same for the other components. Next, add init function where we will configure our components and our unit. We need to init the HP component, we need to init life component. If you wonder why do we have init function, because we could simply use ready function that will be automatically called by Godot when the node is ready, and it can do all of it here. The thing is, in many cases, well, I would say most cases, you will need to control the flow, not to make the entity, unit, some scenes or logic blocks to init themselves at some point, but to tell them in what exact moment to do so. That's why it's very useful to have own function that you will call when you will be needed, like to show the unit, to make it active, not when you just add it to the scene, because maybe after you adding it, you will need to make some adjustments, set position, many other stuff, and only then to make it work, not just on when it's ready. That's why be careful with such stuff. In most cases, when you use ready functions, init functions, I mean init, that's called by Godot internally when some script is instantiated, be careful, because it's potential place where you lose the control and you will enter many issues to solve this. So yes, it's not bad to use those functions. We will use them. Just in this case with our units, I need to control when they become active, when they start working, and so on. Our next step is to create a movement input component that will let us control our player from the keyboard. So in our project, in scripts, gameplay, components, add a new component, name it new script, name it movement input. And here we need to extend node, add class name movement input component, and here we'll have a movement component export variable. What it's for. This component will control another component, the movement one. The movement we created in the previous part is about moving the target node. So this one is making the movement, making the steps, and the input let us listen to keyboard and set the movement component move direction, so we control it. In physics process, each physics frame, we will get from input, get vector. We use those 4 directions. They are set in Godot by default in the project. We get which directions are currently used by input. So when you press arrow keys, up, down, left, or right, it lets you get the movement direction by this 4. And we will set the movement direction in our movement component. That's it. So when you press like arrow up, our movement component will move up, and so on. Also, we have enable and disable functions to stop our processing, updating the movement direction, and again enabling it. Now let's make a small test. I need an image for my test unit. Under assets, I create images, gameplay, test units, and I have this dummy. You can find something similar in Google Images or draw your own one. It's not that hard, and you again don't need to be perfect. It's just for test unit. Then under the scenes, create test folder, shared, and dummy units. Test folder means here will be placed all the scenes we use for the tests, not for production. Just to test our components, units, mechanics, and so on. Shared means here will be the test scenes that are used across all other test scenes, so they're shared. And here will be placed our dummy units. To create one, we get our base unit scene, right-click, and you inherited scene. We'll use it, inherit it, so make a new scene on the base of our base unit, not to recreate all of this again. Call it, it's gonna be dummy static, and save it. Save it under scenes, test, share, dummy units here, dummy static, like this. So we need here to set our sprite 2D. You can or click here and pick an image, or you just drag and drop your image here or on the sprite. It's all the same. Let's make it smaller. We will adjust the size later. And we need to add collision shape. We'll use simple rectangle shape. When you drag, it moves only one of the sides. If you want to move both sides from opposites, you just hold Alt key like this. And we are ready. No need again to cover all the image. It will be sufficient like this. Okay, save. And now we need a test scene where we will try to move our dummy. So under the test folder, create new folder, call it movement input test, so we can find it and understand what it does. Test like this, and here will be a new scene with the same name, movement input test. Okay, and we can again press Ctrl Shift A to instantiate a new scene and select our dummy, or you can simply again take the scene from the 4 files and drag and drop it here. I prefer the first one, to pick them from the list. Here's our dummy. And if I launch the scene, I will get error. It's fine because we forget to, or in our base unit, we forget to configure it. So in the movement component, it should have the reference to target node, which node it moves when it makes steps. We want to move our root node, so when the root node moves, all 2D nodes, all the nodes inside will move alongside it. So click here assign and just pick the base unit, and all inherited scenes will get these settings too. So if I open dummy static, I will see my movement already have reference to its root node. Okay, if I launch it again, here is our dummy from the left top corner. Here we can see it. If you scale down it, we see it at here, and I can't move it. I press my arrow on the keyboard, nothing happens. Why? It's because first, our movement component need the move speed. It's 0. We could try 100. For now, we'll adjust it later. And second one, it doesn't have here the movement input component. I don't want to place it here because I name it dummy static. It's dummy that doesn't move. But in our test scene here, we have our instantiated dummy. We can adjust it. Right click, editable children, and we can manipulate with those settings for its node in this scene. So the original won't change. And I can add new node. I need to for this particular dummy to make it controllable. So I add movement input. Again, the original won't have it. I did this entity, this instantiated scene, only here. And it needs, again, reference to our movement component, which component we are updating the direction. And now launch. And if I press on my keyboard the arrows, it moves. We can control our units. It works. Our next step is to plan the spell. Our player will fire spells into our enemies, so we'll have a base spell scene where we need damage. It's gonna be export property variable, exported variable. Also, we need cooldown. It's to control the fire rate. And we need such nodes like timer. We'll set its timeout by our cooldown. And let's mark it that this timer is for cooldown. Also, we need area 2D. I can copy it from here. This area will be its damage attack range, like this. And this is our base spell. We will have much more exported variables, but this one is just for start. And we will inherit it to make our actual spells, like we will have Sting spell. Under scenes, gameplay, entities, create new folder spells, create base and base spell scene. It's gonna be 2D scene. It will be moved alongside its owner, the player, or any other scene who can use the spell. So here we need timer. We'll call it cooldown timer. Also we need area 2D. This area is for our attack range, use range, and collision shape 2D. We won't set the shape again, but in most cases I think we're gonna use the circle shape. Attach script to it, and here how it will look like. It's base spell scene. We need export variables for damage, damage range. When we will set it, we will use setter. It means each time when you in the editor adjust these values, so we set new damage range, it calls this function where we get the new value, we set it to the variable, and if we have the reference to our collision shape, here are they, reference to our scene nodes. If we have one, so it means the scene is ready. We update the shape radius to our damage range. But again, this means that we use all the shapes as a circle that has this property, radius. Otherwise, we'll need to add additional condition to check how we should work with it. Also, we have cooldown. Each spell will have its level. Why I use export variable for it? Just for development case. So when we instantiate it in some test scene, we could adjust it here. That's all, or just see it. But actually, we won't do this in the editor. Also, each spell will have enable option. So is it working or not? Our, again, reference to our scene nodes and in ready function. So just when the scene is ready, we set our cooldown wait time by our cooldown variable. We set our radius by our damage range property, and our cooldown timer, we connect the timeout to the use spell function. So each time when cooldown signal will be emitted, we call this function. Spell will be used or try to be used. Here we do nothing because each spell has its own logic how it should be used when, but again, we need this function in each spell, just each spell will implement it how it should be in that spell. So here we make push error, so if any spell will not implement this function, we will get the error. Why we don't use abstract? In Godot 4.5 or 6, we got this abstract rule, and we can make our functions abstract, which means they should be implemented, but we in all inherited scripts, it means that all inherited scripts need to have this function. But why we don't use it? Because if you use abstract rule, it means you can't instantiate such script, which means I can't attach it to my node in the scene here in base spell, so I can't use it. And we have enable function and disable function. Enable enables the timer start the cooldown, and disable just stop it. In this part, we built a base unit scene and already tested movement input using dummy unit. In next part, we will add spell projectile scene and create our first spell. See you in the next one.